Good afternoon, Invisible Chat, as well as Real Chat. We are back today with something a little bit different than what we typically do. Normally, we are jumping into some kind of game and obviously playing stuff right off the front. Not so much today. A bit of a weird, or not a weird day, bit of a different day. We're going to start with reading a book because I really want to read and just get back more into it, as well as also just read on stream. I think that could be pretty fun. I'm not sure why this is showing me as in Helldivers because that's pretty clearly not the case. But yeah, I think it'd be fun to read on stream and potentially get some additional coverage that way because I want to get my voice out. I want people to be able to hear me and try and hire me for potentially doing voices for them. So I think that'd be kind of cool. We're gonna see if we can make this work today by doing it a little differently than we typically have. You see, got all this stuff that's up in here because I forgot to pull it off my actual screen. We're on the wrong screen anyway. We need to be on this one. So, got that. We need to tip this down, and then I figure we can keep the book right there. Yeah, you can set it right here, and then I can read off of this and follow along if you're wanting to. We've got the Deadhouse Gates, Book 2 of the Malazan Book of the Fallen by Stephen Erickson. Book 2 because I don't have Book 1 anymore. I think it got lost in our move on the way over to where we are now. So unfortunately, we will not be starting with that. Although I don't like it as much. I like Deadhouse Gates better as a story, and so I think that oh, we're right there. I think that that'll work out potentially a little bit better, just in terms of the actual content that we are reading. So, Deadhouse Gates is a very good book. You'll see what it's all about as we get going. If you have questions on characters or otherwise anything else, just ask, even though it's been a little while since I've read this myself. So, I like to think of myself as that kid that would get called on in class and you'd be like, oh, thank God it's this guy and not somebody else. You know, that one dude that gets called on and you're just like, oh God, we're going to be here for the next forever. And I try not to be that guy, or at least I try not to be. We're gonna turn this up, zoom it all in, just so we can get that there. I'm really happy with how my actual like webcam is looking, like my actual face, because that was a time getting that set up yesterday. So let's give this a shot. He came shambling into Judgment's Round from the Avenue of Souls, a misshapen mass of flies. Seething lumps crawled on his body in mindless migration, black and glittering, and occasionally falling away in frenzied clumps that exploded into fragmented flight as they struck the cobbles. The thirsting hour was coming to a close, and the priest staggered in its wake, blind, deaf, silent. Honoring his god on this day, the servant of Hood, Lord of Death, had joined his companions in stripping naked and smearing himself in the blood of executed murderers, blood that was stored in giant amphorae lining the walls of the temple's nave. The brothers had then moved in procession out onto the streets of Unta to greet the god's sprites, enjoying the mortal dance that marked the season of Rot's last day. The guards lining the round parted to let the priest pass, then parted further for the spinning, buzzing cloud that trailed him. The sky over Unta was still more gray than blue as the flies had swept at dawn into the capital of the Malazan Empire. As the flies that had swept at dawn into the capital of the Malazan Empire now rose, slowly winging out over the bay towards the salt marshes and sunken islands beyond the reef. Pestilence came with the season of rot, and the season had come an unprecedented 3 times in the past 10 years. The air of the round still buzzed, was still speckled as if filled with flying grit. Somewhere in the streets beyond, a dog yelled like a thing near death, but not near enough, and close to the round's central fountain, the abandoned mule that had collapsed earlier still kicked feebly in the air. Flies had crawled into the beast through every orifice and was now bloated with gases. The animal, stubborn by its breed, was now over an hour in dying. As the priest struggled sightlessly I can't talk. As the priest staggered sightlessly past, flies rose from the mule in a swift curtain to join those that had already enshrouded him. It was clear to Felicent then, from where she stood, and the others waited, that the priest of Hood was striding directly towards her. His eyes were 10,000 eyes, but she was certain they were all fixed on her. Yet even this growing horror did little to stir the numbness that lay like a smothering blanket over her mind. She was aware of it rising inside, but awareness seemed more a memory of fear than fear now alive within her. She recalled the first season of rot that she'd lived through, but had clear memories of the second one. Under 3 years ago, she had witnessed this day secure in their family estate, in a solid house with its windows shuttered and cloth sealed, with braziers set outside the doors and the courtyard's high, broken glass-rimmed walls billowing with the acrid smoke of astral leaves. The last day of the season and its thirsting hour had been a time of remote revulsion for her, irritating and inconvenient, but nothing more. Then, she'd given little thought to the city's countless beggars and the stray animals bereft of shelter, or even to the poorest residents who were subsequently press-ganged into clean-up crews for days afterward. The same city, but a different world. Fellison wondered if the guards would make any move towards the priest as he came closer to the Cole's victims. She and the others in line were the charges of the Empress now, Lycian's responsibility, and the priest's path could be seen as blind and random. The imminent collision one of chance rather than of design. Here, let me move that up a little bit just so we can see everything. One of chance other than design, although in her bones Fellison knew differently. Would the helmed guard step forward to seek to guide the priest to one side, lead him safely through the round? I think not, the man squatting on her right. His half-closed eyes, buried deep in their sockets, flashed with something that might have been amusement. Seen you flicking your gaze. Gods to priest, priest to gods. The big silent man on her left slowly rose to his feet, pulling the chain with him. Fellison winced as the shackle yanked at her when the man folded his arms across his bare, scarred chest. He glared at the approaching priest, but said nothing. What does he want with me? Fellison asked in a whisper. What have I done to earn a priest of Hood's attention? The squatting man rocked back on his heels, tilting his face into the late afternoon sun. Queen of dreams, is this self-centered youth I hear from those full sweet lips? Or just the usual stance of noble blood around the universe revolves? Answer me, I pray, fickle queen. Fellison scowled. I felt better when I thought you asleep, or dead. Dead men do not squat, lass, they sprawl. Hood's priest comes not for you, but for me. She faced him then, the chain rattling between them. He looked more of a sunken-eyed toad than a man. He was bald, his face webbed in tattooing, minute black, square-etched symbols hidden within an overall pattern covering skin like a wrinkled scroll. He was naked, but for a ragged loincloth, its dye a faded red. Flies crawled all over him, reluctant to leave. They danced on, but not, Fellison realized, to Hood's bleak orchestration. The tattooed pattern covered the man, the boar's face overlying his own. The intricate maze of script-threaded curled fur winding down his arms, covering his exposed thighs and shins, and the detailed hooves etched into the skin of his feet. Fellison had until now been too self-absorbed, too much with shock to pay any attention to her companions on the chain line. This man was a priest of Fener, the boar of summer, and the flies seemed to know it, understand it enough to alter their frenzied motion. She watched with morbid fascination as they gathered at the stumps at the end of the man's wrists, the old scar tissue the only place on him unclaimed by Fener. But the paths the sprites took to those stumps touched not a single tattooed line. The flies danced a dance of avoidance, but for all that, they were eager to dance. The priest of Fener had been ankle-shackled last in the line. Everyone else had the narrow iron bands fastened around their wrists. His feet were wet with blood, and the flies there hovered, but did not land. She saw his eyes flick open as the sun's light was suddenly blocked. Hood's priest had arrived. Chains stirred as the man on Fellison's left drew back as far as the links would allow. The wall at her back felt hot, the tiles, painted with the scenes of imperial pageantry, now slick through the thin weave of her slave tunic. Fellison stared at the fly-shrouded creature standing wordlessly before the squatting priest of Fener. She could see no exposed flesh, nothing of the man himself. The flies had claimed all of him, and beneath them he lived in darkness where even the sun's heat could not touch. The cloud around him grew out, and Fellison shrank back as the countless cold insect legs touched her legs, crawling swiftly up her thighs. She pulled the tunic's hem down close around her, clamping her legs tight. The priest of Fener spoke, his face split into a humorless grin. The thirsting hour is well past, acolyte. Go back to your temple. Hood's servant made no reply, but it seemed the buzzing changed pitch until the music of the wings vibrated in Fellison's bones. The priest's deep eyes narrowed and his tone shifted. Well now.
Indeed, I was once a servant of Fina, but no longer. Not for years. Fina's touch cannot be scrubbed from my skin. Yet it seems that while the boar of summer has no love for me, he has less for you.
Fellison felt something shiver in her soul as the buzzing rapidly shifted, forming words that she could understand.
Secret to show now. Go on then, the one-time servant of Fina growled. Show me.
Perhaps Fina acted then, the swatting hand of a furious god. Fellison would remember the moment and think on it often, or the secret was the mocking of immortals, a joke far beyond her understanding. But at that moment, the rising tide of horror within her broke free, the numbness of her soul seared away as the flies exploded outward, dispersing in all directions to reveal no one. The former priest of Fina flinched as if struck, his eyes wide. From across the round, a dozen guards cried out, wordless sounds punched from their throats. Chains snapped as others in the line jolted as if to flee. The iron hoops set in the walls snatched taut, but the loops held, as did the chains. The guards rushed forward and the line shrank back into submission.
Now that, the tattooed man muttered, was uncalled for.
An hour passed, an hour in which the mystery, shock, and horror of Hood's priest sank down within Fellison to become but one more layer, the latest knot in which had become an unending nightmare. The latest but not the last, I should say. An acolyte of Hood, who was not there. The buzzing of wings that had formed words. Had that been Hood himself? Had the Lord of Death come to walk among mortals? And why stand before a once priest of Fina? What was the message behind the revelation? But slowly, the questions faded in her mind, the numbness seeping back in the return of cold despair. The Empress had culled her nobility, stripped the houses and families of their wealth, followed by a summary accusation and conviction of treason that had ended in chains. As for the ex-priest on her right and the huge bestial man with all the makings of a common criminal on her left, clearly neither one could claim noble blood. He laughed softly, startling both men.
Has Hood's secret revealed itself to you, then, lass?
The ex-priest asked. No.
What did you find so amusing?
She shook her head. I had expected to find myself in good company. How's that for an upturned thought? There you have it, the very attitude of the peasants hungered to tear down the very same fuel that the Empress has touched to flame.
Child!
That was wrong, sorry.
Child!
The voice was that of an aged woman, still haughty but with an air of desperate yearning. Fellison closed her eyes briefly, then straightened, and looked along the line to the gaunt old woman behind the thug. The woman was wearing her night clothes, torn and smeared, with noble blood, no less. Lady Gayson. The old woman reached out a shaking hand. Yes, wife to Lord Hilrack. I am Lady Gayson. The words came as if she'd forgotten who she was, and now frowned through the cracked makeup covering her wrinkles and her red-shot eyes fixed on Fellison.
I know you, she hissed. House of Perron, youngest daughter, Fellison.
Fellison went cold. She turned away and stared straight ahead, out into the compound where the guards stood leaning on pikes, passing out flasks of ale between them and waving away the last of the flies. A cart had arrived for the mule, 4 ash-smeared men climbing down from its bed with ropes and gaffs. From beyond the walls encircling the round rose Unta's painted spires and domes. She longed for the shadowed streets between them, longed for the pampered life of a week ago. Sebri barking harsh commands at her as she led her favorite mare through her paces, and she would look up as she guided the mare in a delicate, precise turn to see the row of green-leafed leadwoods that were separating the riding ground from the family vineyards. Beside her, the thug grunted.
It's fate. This bitch has some sense of humor.
Which bitch? Fellison wondered, but she managed to hold her expression even as she lost the comfort of her memories. The ex-priest stirred.
Sisterly spat, is it?
He paused and then dryly added,
Seems a bit extreme.
The thug grunted again and leaned forward, his shadow draping Fellison.
Defrocked priest, are you? Not like the Empress to do the temples a favor.
She didn't. A loss of piety was a while ago. I'm sure the Empress would rather I'd stayed in the cloister.
As if she'd care,
the thug said derisively as he settled back into his pose. Lady Gayson rattled. You must speak with her, Fellison. An appeal. I have rich friends. The thug's grunt turned into a bark.
Farther up the line, hag. That's where you'll find your rich friends.
Fellison just shook her head. Speak with her. It's been months. not even when father died. A silence followed, dragging on, approaching the silence that had existed before the spat of Babel. This spate of Babel. But then the ex-priest cleared his throat, spat, and muttered, "Not worth looking for salvation in a woman who's just following orders, lady, never mind that one being this girl's sister." Fellison wondered, and then glared at the ex-priest. "You presume—"
"You ain't presuming nothing," growled the thug. "Forget what's in the blood, what's supposed to be in it by your slant on things. This is the work of the Empress. Maybe you think it's personal. Maybe you think that, being what you are."
"What I am?" Fellison laughed harshly. "What house claims you as kin?" The thug grinned.
"The house of shame. What of it? Yours ain't looking any less shabby."
"As I thought," Fellison said, ignoring the truth of his last observation with difficulty. She glowered at the guards. "What's happening? Why are we sitting here?" The ex-priest spat again.
"Thirsting hours past. The mob outside needs organizing."
He glared up at her from under the shelf of his brows.
"The peasants need to be roused. We're the first girl, and the example's got to be established. What happens here in Unta is going to rattle every noble born in the Empire."
"Nonsense," Lady Gayson snapped. "We shall be well treated. The Empress shall have to treat us well." The thug grunted a third time. What passed for laughter, Fellison realized, and said,
"If stupidity was a crime, lady, you'd have been arrested years ago. The ogre's right. Not many of us are going to make it to the slave ships. This parade down Colonnade Avenue is going to have one long bloodbath. Mind you," he added, eyes narrowing on the guards, "Old Bawden ain't going to be torn apart by any mob of peasants."
Fellison felt real fear stirring in her stomach. She fought off a shiver. "Do you mind if I stay in your shadow, Bawden?"
The man looked down at her. "You're a bit plump, for my taste."
He turned away, then added, "But do what you like." The ex-priest leaned close.
"Thinking on it, girl. This rivalry of yours ain't in the leagues of tattletales and scratch fights. Likely your sister wants to be sure you—"
"She's adjunct to Vor," Fellison cut in. "She's not my sister anymore. She renounced our house at the call of the Empress." I gotta get these voices figured out. I gotta line this up. Hold on, and I'm getting talked at by Mike real quick. Hold on, we gotta see. Be done with the prologue. Okay, yeah, we'll get through the prologue, I think, and then Mike, you should be here. Anyway, we're gonna have to figure out these voices. Where did I go?
"Even so, I have an inkling it's still personal."
Fellison scowled. "How would you know anything about it?" The man made a slight, ironic bow.
"Thief once, then priest, now historian. I know the tense position the nobility finds itself in."
Fellison's eyes slowly widened, and she cursed herself for her stupidity. Even Bawden, who could not have helped overhearing, leaned forward for a searching stare.
"Heboric," he said. "Heboric light touch."
Heboric raised his arms. "As light as ever."
You wrote that revised
history," Fellison said. "Committed treason." Heboric's wiry brows rose in mock alarm. "Gods forbid! A philanthropic divergence of opinions, nothing more. Duker's own words at the trial. In my defense, Fëanor bless him."
"But the Empress wasn't listening," Bawden said, grinning. "After all, you called her a murderer, and then had the gall to say she bungled the job."
"Found an illicit copy, did you?" Bawden blinked. "In any case," Heboric continued to Fellison, "it's my guess that your sister, the adjunct, plans on your getting to the slave ships in one piece. Your brother disappearing on Genebacchus took the life out of your father. So I've heard." He added, grinning. "But it was the rumors of treason that put spurs to your sister, wasn't it? Clearing the whole family name and all that." "You make it sound reasonable, Heboric," Fellison said, hearing the bitterness in her voice, but not caring anymore. "We differed in our opinions, Tavor and I, and now you see the results." "Your opinions of what, precisely?" She did not reply. There was a sudden stirring in the line. The guards straightened and swung to face the round's west gate. Fellison paled as she saw her sister, adjunct Tavor now, heir to Lorne, who died in Darujistan, ride up on her stallion, a beast bred out of the Paran stables, no less. Beside her was the ever-present Tamber, a beautiful young woman whose long, tawny mane gave substance to her name. Where she'd come from was anyone's guess, but now Tavor's personal aide. Beside these two rode a score of officers and a company of heavy cavalry, the soldiers looking exotic, foreign. Touch of irony, Iborik muttered, eyeing the horse soldiers. Bowden jutted his head forward and spat. Red swords, the bloodless bastards. Historian threw the man an amused glance. Traveled well in your profession, Bowden? Seen the sea walls of Arran, have you? The man shifted uneasily and then shrugged. Stood a deck or two in my time, Olga. Besides, he added, the rumor of them's been in the city a week or more. There was a stirring from the red sword troops, and Fellison saw mailed hands close on weapon grips, peaked helms turning towards the adjunct. Sister Tavor, did our brother's disappearance cut you so deep? How great his failing you must imagine to seek this recompense, and then, to make your loyalty absolute, you chose between me and Mother for the symbolic sacrifice. Didn't you realize that Hood stood on the side of both choices? At least Mother is with her beloved husband now. She watched as Tavor scanned her guard briefly, and then said something to Amber, who edged her own mount forward at the east gate. Bowden grunted one more time. Look lively. The endless hour is about to begin. And I got sent that message. No. I got sent my message for 15-20 minutes. Just about 15 minutes ago. So I guess we'll wait to see if he joins the Discord. Then go from... Why is my face all buzzy? Like my it's just being weird. I think I definitely need a water bottle though, so I'm gonna grab that. We're gonna throw that right there as a little bookmark. Water bottle get. All right. We're gonna okay. For a second, while my face is doing whatever it is that it's doing right now, I'm just gonna do this because you can still hear me. Okay, at least I think. I'm not gonna do voices. I think for the first little bit while we're getting everything figured out and kind of seeing how this is received. But yeah, we're gonna keep going. I'm gonna stop trying to lean into voices quite as much. I don't have them mastered the way that I would want to in order to do them effectively, if you understand. But we will continue onwards. We'll go right here. It was one thing to accuse the Empress of murder. It was quite another to predict her next move. If only they'd heeded my warning. Boric winced as they shuffled forward, the shackles cutting hard against his ankles. People of civilized countenance made much of exposing the soft underbellies of their psyche. Effete and sensitive were the brands of finer breeding. It was easy for them, safe, and that was the whole point. After all, a statement of coddled opulence rather that burned the throats of the poor more than any ostentatious show of wealth. Eboric had said as much in his treatise, and could now admit a bitter admiration for the Empress and for Adjunct Tavor, Lassine's instrument in this. The excessive brutality of the midnight arrests, doors battered down, families dragged from their beds amidst wailing servants, provided the first layer of shock. Dazed by sleep deprivation, the nobles were trussed up and shackled, forced to stand before a drunken magistrate and a jury of beggars dragged in from the streets. It was a sour and obvious mockery of justice that had stripped away the few remaining expectations of civil behavior, stripped away civilization itself, leaving nothing but the chaos of savagery. Shock layered on shock, a rending of those fine underbellies. Tavor knew her own kind, knew their weaknesses, and was ruthless in exploiting them. What could drive a person to such viciousness? The poor folk mobbed the streets when they heard the details, screaming adoration for the Empress. Carefully triggered riots, looting, and slaughter followed, raging through the noble district, hunting down those few select highborns who hadn't been arrested. Enough of them to whet the mob's bloodlust, give them faces to focus on with rage and hate. Then followed the reimposition of order, lest the city take flame. The Empress had made a few mistakes. She'd used the opportunity. Just kidding. The Empress made few mistakes. She'd used the opportunity to round up malcontents and unaligned academics, to close the fist of military presence on the capital, drumming the need for more troops, more recruits, more protection against the treasonous scheming of the noble class. The seized assets paid for this martial expansion. An exquisite move, even if forewarned, rippling out with the force of imperial decree through the empire, the cruel rage now sweeping each city. Bitter admiration. Heberick kept finding the need to spit, something he hadn't done since his cut-purse days in the mouse quarter of Malaz City. He could see the shock written on most of the faces in the chain line. Faces above nightclothes, mostly, were grimy and filthy from the pits, leaving their wearers bereft of even the social armor of regular clothing. Disheveled hair, stunned expressions, broken poses, everything the mob beyond the round lusted to see, hungered to flail. Welcome to the streets, Heberick thought to himself as the guards prodded the line into motion. The adjunct looking on, straight in her high saddle, her thin face drawn until nothing but lines remained, the slit of her eyes, the brackets around her uncurved, almost lipless mouth. Damn, but she wasn't born with much, was she? The looks went to her young sister, to the last stumbling a step ahead of them. Heberick's eyes fixed on Adjunct Tabor, curious, seeking something. A flicker of malicious pleasure, maybe, as her icy gaze swept the line and lingered for the briefest of moments on her sister. But the pause was all she revealed, a recognition acknowledged, nothing more. The gaze swept on. The guards opened the east gate 200 paces ahead, near the front of the chained line. A roar poured through that ancient arched passageway, a wave of sound that buffeted soldier and prisoner alike, bouncing off the high walls and rising up amidst an explosion of terrified pigeons from the upper eaves. The sound of flapping wings drifted down like polite applause, although to Heberick it seemed like he alone appreciated the ironic touch of the gods. Not to be denied a gesture, he managed a slight bow. Would keep his damned secrets. Here, Feener, you old sow, it's that itch that I could never scratch. Look on now, closely. See what becomes of your wayward son. Some part of Fellison's mind held on to sanity, held with a brutal grip in the face of a maelstrom. Soldiers lined Colonnade Avenue in ranks 3 deep, but again and again the mob seemed to find weak spots in that bristling line. She found herself observing, clinically, as hands tore at her, fists pummeled her, blurred faces lunged at her with gobs of spit. And even as sanity held within her, so too a pair of steady arms encircled her, arms without hands, the ends scarred and suppurating, arms that pushed her forward, ever forward. No one touched the priest, no one dared, while ahead was Baden, more horrifying than the mob itself. He killed effortlessly. He tossed bodies aside with contempt, roaring, gesturing, beckoning. Even as soldiers stared beneath their ridged helmets, heads turning at his taunts, hands tightening on the pikes or sword hilt. Baden, laughing Baden, his nose smashed by a well-flung brick, stones bouncing from him, his slave tunic in rags and soaked with blood and spit. Every body that darted within his reach he grasped, twisted, bent, and broke. His only pause in his stride came when something happened ahead, some breach in the soldiery, or when Lady Gayson faltered. He'd grasp her arms under the shoulders, none too gently, and propel her forward, swearing all the while. A wave of fear ahead of them, a touch of terror inflicted, turning back the mob. A number of attackers diminished, although the bricks flew in a constant barrage, some hitting, most missing. The march through the city continued. Fellison's ears rang painfully. She heard everything through a daze of sound, but her eyes saw clearly, seeking and finding, all too often, images that she would never forget. The gates were in sight when the most savage breach occurred. The soldiers seemed to melt away, and the tide of fierce hunger swept into the street, engulfing the prisoners. Fellison caught Heberick's grunting words close behind her as he shoved hard. "This is the one, then." Baden roared. Bodies crowded in, hands tearing, nails clawing. Fellison's last shreds of clothing were torn away. A hand closed on a fistful of her hair, yanked savagely, twisting her head around, seeking the crack of vertebrae. She heard a screaming and realized it came from her own throat. A bestial snarl sounded behind her, and she felt the hand clench spasmodically, and then it was gone. More screaming filled her ears. A strong momentum caught them, pulling or pushing, she couldn't tell, and Heberick's face came into view, spitting bloody skin from his mouth. All at once, a space cleared around Bodden. He crouched, a torrent of Doc curses bellowing from his mashed lips. Where are the yawns coming from, dude? I'm not even tired. I drank 2 rock stars today, or I drank 1 with the intention to drink a second. All at once a space cleared around Bodden. He crouched, a torrent of Doc curses bellowing from his mashed lips. His right ear had been torn off, taking with it hair, skin, and flesh. The bone of his temple glistened wetly. Broken bodies lay around him, few moving, and at his feet was Lady Gayson. Bodden held her by the hair, pulling her face into view. The moment seemed to freeze, the world closing into this single place. Bodden bared his teeth and laughed.
"I'm no whimpering noble," he growled, facing the crowd.
"What do you want? You want the blood of a noblewoman?" The mods screamed, reaching out eager hands. Bodden laughed again.
"We pass through. You hear me?"
He straightened, dragging Gayson's head upward. Fellison couldn't tell if the old woman was conscious. Her eyes were closed, the expression peaceful, almost youthful, behind the smeared dirt and bruises. Perhaps she was dead, and Fellison prayed that it was so. Something was about to happen. Something to condense this nightmare into a single image. Tension held the air.
"She's yours!"
Bodden screamed. With his other hand grasping the lady's chin, he twisted her head around. The neck snapped, and the body sagged, twitching. Bodden wrapped a length of chain around her neck, pulled it taut, and then began sawing. Blood showed, making the chain look like a mangled scarf. Fellison stared in horror.
"Fina, have mercy,"
Heberick breathed. The crowd was stunned silent, withdrawing even in their bloodlust, shrinking back. A soldier appeared, helmetless, his young face white, eyes fixed on Bodden, his steps ceasing. Beyond him, the glistening peaked helms and broad blades of the red swords flashed above the crowd as the horsemen slowly pushed their way in towards the scene. No movement, save the sawing chain. No breath, save Bodden's grunting snorts. Whatever riot continued to rage beyond this place, it seemed 1,000 leagues away. Fellison watched the woman's head jerk back and forth, a mockery of life's animation. She remembered Lady Gayson, haughty, imperious, beyond her years of beauty and seeking stature in its stead. What other choice? Many, but it didn't matter now. Had she been a gentle, kindly grandmother, it would not have mattered, nor would not have changed in the mind-numbing horror of this moment. The head came away with a sobbing sound, Bodden's teeth glimmering as he stared at the crowd.
"We had a deal," he grated. "Here's what you want. Something to remember this day by."
He flung Lady Gayson's head into the mob, a whirl of hair and threads of blood. Screams answered its unseen landing. More soldiers appeared, backed by the red swords, moving slowly, pushing at the still silent onlookers. Peace was being restored all along the line, in all places but this one violently without quarter. As people began to die under sword strokes, the rest fled. The prisoners who had filed out of the arena had numbered around 300. Fellison, looking up the line, her first sight at what remained. Some shackles held only forearms, while others were completely empty. Under 100 prisoners remained on their feet, and many on the paving stones writhed, screaming in pain. The rest did not move at all. Bodden glared at the nearest knot of soldiers.
"Likely timing, tinheads."
Boric spat heavily, his face twisting as he glared at the thug. "Imagined you'd buy your way out, did you, Bodden? Give them what they want, but it was wasted, wasn't it? The soldiers were coming. She could have lived." Bodden slowly turned, his face a sheet of blood.
"To what end, priest?"
"Was that your line of reasoning? She would have died in the hold anyway?" Bodden showed his teeth and said slowly,
"I just hate making deals with bastards."
Fellison stared at the 3-foot length of chain between herself and Bodden. 1,000 thoughts could have followed, link by link. What she had been, what she was now, the prison she'd discovered inside and out, merged as vivid memory. But all she thought, all that she said, was this: "Don't make any more deals, Bodden." His eyes narrowed on her, her words and tone reaching him, somehow, some way. Heberick straightened, a hard look in his eyes as he studied her. Bellison turned away, half in defiance, half in shame. A moment later, the soldiers, having cleared the line of the dead, pushed them along, out through the gate, onto the east road towards the pier town called Luckless, where Adjunct Tavern and her retinue waited, as did the slave ships of Aran. Farmers and peasants lined the road, displaying nothing of the frenzy that had gripped their cousins in the city. Bellison saw in their faces a dull sorrow, a passion born of different scars. She could not understand where it came from, and she knew that her ignorance was the difference between her and them. She also knew, in her bruises, scratches, and helpless nakedness, that her lessons had begun. That is the end of the prologue of Deadhouse Gates. Takes us to 40 minutes into stream, and to book 1, called Raraku. There's a poem or two at the beginning of each one of these chapters, and so we'll be starting with that next time, but that will be next time. As for now, we have a session to join. Mikey should be jumping on here in just a sec, and I think I'm shooting for roughly a chapter, a section, a bit, a piece, a part, whatever you want to call it, a day. So I think that'll be a good place to stop for now. We are going to take a brief intermission. I'm going to get a drink. I'm going to eat a little bit of food. My wife is gesturing at me aggressively, and so I will see what's going on there. Everybody say hi, wife. Say hi, wife. Hi. Invisible chat says hi. And we will be back to a regularly scheduled Oh boy, what is that? Is this my... Oh, it is. It's the green screen that's cut out entirely for some reason. Okay, hold on. Let's just do that. Hey, problem solved. Okay, we're going to be here in the intermission for a minute. I will be back shortly. We're going to get the music going again. And then we're going to jump into the party for Rocket League. Give me just a sec. Boss fight, Agrotech afternoon. You guys tell me if this works. I think this will be a good one. We're going to do Total Superhighway, though, because I really like this song. Anyway, we'll be back in a short Can't tell if it is my stream info that's going poorly or if it is my... No, okay, so everything has been fine. For whatever reason, it shows my bitrate as being unstable for the first, like, for the head of the thing. And then pushing back, you know, further past that, going back into the beginning of the stream, its quality was fine. So, like, hopefully everything looks okay. We'll just make sure real quick with our regular live screen, if we slide over here, that everything is good, but we should be. What's going on with my brightness? What is this? I had no idea what that word means. Okay, hold on. Let's check this out. Yeah. I already know about that. Configure video. Yes. Okay, hold on. Zoom it in just a little more. Okay, teeny bit more zoom. We don't need low light compensation anymore. We already have exposure to auto. Can I set tilt and pan to be also automatic? No. Probably turn this down just a little bit. Leave that where it's at. Leave that where it's at. Okay. I mean, I think we're pretty much good to go. I was gonna say, can I 120 this? No. Well, let me 120 it. Damn. Anyway, chat, y'all are cute. I appreciate you being here. Invisible chat, especially. You guys rock and always have and always will. I know that if nobody else got me, you got me. Do you like how I had my book set up as well with my jank ass like mic arm webcam mounted ready cam? Yeah. We're gonna scroll this because I have a bad addiction to seeing how many viewers that I have, even though I typically don't have very many, if any, types of viewers at all. I don't need my activity feed up. Get rid of the activity feed. I don't need that shit. Save. Okay. I don't particularly care about that stuff. Do about this stuff though, so we're gonna go ahead and slide that down. And this is still. I'm just gonna mute myself in Discord until anybody gets it. Oh no fucking way! What's up? Well, I'm sitting here talking to myself, you know, just on stream, and I go, literally, the second you joined, I was like, okay, well, I'm just kind of here talking, so I'm just going to mute myself in case somebody comes in, and then I don't sound like a crazy person, and you literally clicked, as I clicked mute, you jumped in. So you just, as I was unmuting from having already clicked off of Discord, just, what, no fucking way!
Damn.
What is the timing?
I would have been a minute and a half earlier, but I had to wash my hands twice.
Oh, no, you're good. I have to do that all the time. I've had to watch them like 4 or 5 times today, bro. It's crazy.
I washed them, and then I found a tick on me earlier, so I had to learn my Cade. So I was like, I checked Cade, and then I'm like, I should probably wash my hands again. So there's my story.
Nice. Good story.
It'll hold up in court. Promise.
It will stand up to cross-examination. So I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but I've had my PC in stealth mode all day today. Like none of the lights, no nothing, absolutely zero like engagement on any of the like customization stuff, and the fan hasn't had a single issue. Of course, they already sent me the new one, so like it's a non-issue at this point. But curious that not having any of my lights or otherwise, you know, glowy stuffs on, like not running any of my keyboard stuff, not running anything, is giving it a much better fighting chance today. It hasn't ground once.
You're not using your keyboard?
No, I am. Just none of my like keyboard plugins and stuff. Like I run software to control the lights and customization for the keyboard and all that kind of stuff as far as LEDs go. I'm just not I just didn't turn it on today, or I didn't launch the utility today. Restarted it last night, have everything turned off for the most part on startup processes, so just basically a fresh start this morning, and it hasn't had any problems. So, that's good. Still, fan will be good, and then we'll have a backup fan if worst comes to worst, and then I can put it somewhere else if I need to use it.
Sure.
Yeah. Fucking Breach. It is Breach. I don't like this song. Okay. Well, I am good to go when you are. Feels pretty good. Already having an hour down. Go away, Epic Launcher.
I texted Voxy like 20 minutes ago, but he didn't reply.
I was just sending him one myself. See if he gets back over with us here.
Yeah, I sent him my Xbox party invite. Left the party. Usually that gets him.
Gets his attention.
Yeah, just send something to his machine. Sometimes you'd be looking at that instead of your phone.
Indeed. He's on Fork Knife.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, there goes Rocket. I guess I'm not messing with that anymore. Got my key light all set up and stuff today, man. It all looks good. It's great. I think we're a bottom left position now, based on where my camera's at. Could be fun doing another scene. I keep forgetting I can hot swap them for just on a whim. I can set the kind of rainbow prism theme I've had going for ever since I started. I could try mixing it up. It's because it's literally plug and play. But I haven't found one yet that I like, so maybe if I did change it, it'd be one that's like more aligned with my colors, for sure.
I missed about 40% of that.
Ah, it's alright. I'm never saying anything important. Just if I change my stream theme, it'll probably be to something that is a little more in line with what my actual colors are. But because like I can just hot swap them for funsies if I wanted to. I just have everything set up on this one that I've been using since I started. It just could be kind of fun to mix things up now that we're really leaned into the color scheme on damn near everything.
Switch colors.
Oh, no. Channel colors is the magenta, purple, pinkish, all kind of stays the same. That's never going to change. Just my actual stream theme, instead of being the brick wall and the rainbow neon, or the iridescent neon, or whatever you want to call it, would be a little more in line potentially with me. Mm. Hmm. That's not right. Oh, here we go. All right, this is what we're looking for. We should let me pop this out, and we could all go shopping together, chat. Actually, can I pop? I think I could just pull this up on their site. Hold on. Let's see here. Try again for TikTok Streamlabs blah, 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 integration. I have been. Leave me alone. We're dropping some additional stuff into here. Well, we can't. All right, we're just gonna look through here until we figure out where Vox is at. Unless you want to run duos, which I'm also fine with.
Sure.
Oh, see, this would be a really good one. I like that one a lot. Either the night sky, the Japan, or this rain one might not be a bad idea. TikTok friendly, no. See if space comes up with any decent themes here. And then I will shoot you an invite in a moment. What is this? Oh, imagine that looks super cool. That'd be a okay. Yeah, we're gonna hang on to this one. Decent intermission. I like all those. Alright, yeah, keep an eye on this. Sea of Stars is the name of that one.
It's just a game.
Yeah. Right, that's just that one game about it's the lesbian musical or whatever it is I heard it described as.
No.
Is
That's a
that
different game.
is that a different one? Which one's that?
That one, I don't know its name, but
It's like
Sea of Stars is like a male-female like thing that where you play as both characters and in and out of both characters type situation.
Oh yeah, no, that was okay. That's the indie one. I remember that. Okay, yeah. Now
Yeah.
seeing the picture makes sense. What was the?
I don't remember what it was called.
What was the? What was the? Um. Oh, Stray Gods. That's what it was. Okay.
Would have never guessed that.
Yeah. The role-playing musical. That sounds right, at least. I think is what I was thinking of. Invite launched. For as dark as it is in the rest of this room, I'm really happy that this corner isn't. Everything was set up correctly. More or less. I also probably need to move my Baby Yoda sticker to the other side of my microphone. Get that angle figured out. Hey, it's Voxy! Voximus! Maybe. I can just have the queue up. Okay, let's do that. The day list today, by the way, this morning was boss fight pump up morning. Then it was soggy vocals afternoon. Sorry, soggy revival vocal afternoon. So whatever soggy classifies as. And then this one is boss fight aggro tech afternoon. Apparently we fight a lot of bosses.
Apparently.
Let's say that's not inaccurate. He's locked out again. He doesn't even know. Why can't I see? Oh, okay. Hold on. Turn that off. Did he just bounce out? Yeah, he did. Okay. Shit. I'm back. Okay. Huh. Apparently Chicken and I aren't actually friends on Discord.
Yeah,
What?
Fisher add me.
It says we're friends. That, yeah, unfortunately that I'm not surprised about. Just him being who he is. I feel like he just... It turned his Xbox off.
Did he?
Yeah.
Or did he just go offline to come play Rocket?
He might have. There's also the fact that he is apparently falling. I can't talk. Jesus Christ, I just read for an hour. He has fallen entirely off of my friends list, so I'm not really sure what's going on with that. He just straight up went through and deleted his account. Huh. Oh, hell. And here's another one for you as well if you're in.
Are you sure Vox is ever here?
Yeah. He jumped into the call, said, "What's up?" Or I said, "What's up?" And then he immediately went deaf mute and then left the call and no longer on Xbox. So I'm not I wonder if he just like... Well, no, he wouldn't have lost internet.
Unable to join party. They are playing a different version of the game.
What? Okay, let me go update then, I guess.
Yeah, you're not connected to the servers.
Weird. Rocket League. It says launch running. There's... You are now online. Connect with your friends. Did it just do it again?
Unable to join party. They're using a different version of the game.
The hell?
Cut it out.
Why can't I fucking click into Rocket League without it launching, Epic?
Because it doesn't have a launcher.
Library. Click. Version. BC update 51 plus a bunch of other numbers. In library.
There's an update.
I just don't know how to auto update on verify. Yeah, it says everything's updated. We should be good. Yeah.
I just rebooted, sent it again.
Okay. Relaunching. There we go. Very weird.
Yeah, Vox never replied. I asked him what happened.
Yeah. Oh, normally he's pretty on it for like responding to texts and stuff, especially if it relates to Rocket, so that's a bit strange. Hmm. Oh, well, into duos match we go. Give him this, I suppose, 10-ish minutes to get a response out and see if he maybe comes back. My connection to the game timed out. You still, did you get in?
Yep.
This is definitely seeming like a my side issue.
Let me leave. This match.
Yeah, my connection to the game timed out. Error 71. Now what?
Yeah, you'd be struggling.
Yeah.
I wonder. I'm curious if your update didn't update. But I also have no idea how to check that.
The network inconsistency issue, but that doesn't make any sense. Yes, I'm aware my internet connection is very fast. So how about you let me play the game? Great match. Joining. We'll see if we can even get into a regular game if this doesn't work. Huh. Yeah, timed out again. Okay, let me try one more thing.